Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed we do. We've got Zed Jelani on. He's going to be talking about lessons to take from Georgia and the future of the Republican Party. We also have Corbin Trent on. He's part of a new initiative to pressure Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema over the filibuster and recruit challengers to them in their primaries in their respective states. So that will be very interesting. But we want to start with what, in my view, is a gigantic disappointment on the minimum wage.
Yeah, this is a huge story actually here in Washington. Kicked off by President Biden, gave an interview to CBS Evening News, and he was pressed, is the minimum wage going to be included in his coronavirus relief package? Let's take a listen to what he said.
So you're saying the minimum wage won't be in this?
My guess is it will not be in it, but I do think that we should have a minimum wage stand by itself, $15 an hour, and work your way up to the 15. It doesn't have to be boom. And all the economics show if you do that, the whole economy rises. I'm prepared as President of the United States on a separate negotiation on minimum wage to work my way up from what it is now, which is pain. Look, no one should work 40 hours a week and live below the poverty wage. And if you're making less than $15 an hour, you're living below the poverty wage.
But that may not be in your American Rescue Plan.
No, I put it in, but I don't think it's going to survive.
Well, if he doesn't think it's going to survive, and if he's not going to push for it, then I guarantee you 100% it's not going to make it into the bill. And of course, Krystal, you and I both know that whenever we talk about standalone stuff, it's never going to happen because you only have really 2 at best shots at reconciliation within a year, and even that requires a lot of financial engineering around the budgets and fiscal years and that type of stuff. So it's all a matter of political will. The truth is, nothing gets done in D.C. except when everything gets done in D.C. And so nothing will happen for 10 years, and then the coronavirus comes along, and they will shove everything they possibly can into one bill. You can hate it, love it, whatever, but that is how policy gets done. And so this is his one shot, $1.9 trillion. Even his own advisor, David Plouffe, former Obama campaign manager, he's like, you better get every single thing that you want because this is it. Your only shot for the American people. And by deciding not to fight for it, you can see where the priority lies. They're deciding not to do that. Now they're talking about even targeting. Janet Yellen talking over the weekend about targeting checks to just people of $60,000 of 2019 income. Who knows how those people are doing? Right now, they could be totally unemployed. We have no idea. The amount of targeting and stuff that's going on right now is completely insane. They are chopping off their legs at the knees for absolutely no reason, and I truly don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, he immediately capitulates the 2 sticking points from Joe Manchin were on the checks and the means to he wanted them to be more targeted, which means, what does that mean? It means that Biden and Ossoff and Warnock and all of the Democrats lied to a whole bunch of people who thought they would get checks if Democrats took the Senate, and now they're saying, maybe you got the 600, you're not going to get this 1,400, putting aside the fact that it should have been 2,000 in the first place. But now this is a massive disappointment. I mean, this isn't just, Manchin wants it to be 12 or 13 instead of 15 or a longer time frame. This is just basically abandoning hope on minimum wage.
It's dead.
Because you're not going to get a single Republican to go along with it. The only way that you could get $15 minimum wage through is through budget reconciliation. And it makes all the sense in the world to do this for the American people right now. First of all, it's been way too long since there's been a minimum wage increase whatsoever. It's at $7.25. I mean, that is utterly pathetic. It is towards the low end of what the minimum wage has been when pegged to inflation since the advent of that program. And also, who will benefit most from the minimum wage increase? You're talking about essential workers. You're talking about people who have had it the hardest this entire year. You don't think we should do something to help make it a little bit right for them, make life a little bit easier, a little bit better for them? It's just really, really disappointing. And here's the other thing that I'll say. Joe Biden claims he supports a $15 minimum wage. But if you support it, but you're not actually going to do it, does that really count as supporting it?
No.
Like having a theoretical support for a position, if you're not going to fight for it, doesn't mean a damn thing. And the fact of the matter is, like, I just really want people to understand that this is 100% within Joe Biden's control.
Yes.
If he was willing to expend the political capital, put pressure on Manchin, overrule the parliamentarian if necessary, like if he really wanted to get this done, it would be done. the fact that he's rolling over on what has been a key promise of his presidency to progressives in particular is very disheartening.
Yeah, and I mean, Bernie Sanders was on the Sunday shows basically being like, listen, we're trying to figure out every parliamentary book in the way in order to get this done. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Now, to be clear, he supports raising the federal minimum wage. He just thinks it's not going to make it into the final bill. You're the Senate Budget Committee chairman. Is President Biden wrong?
Well, I hope he is, Jake. As you indicated, the president supports the $15 an hour minimum wage. I do. Our last poll I saw has 62% of the American people supporting it, because at the end of the day, we are in the midst of massive income and wealth inequality. People on top are doing phenomenally well, and yet we have literally tens of millions of Americans working for starvation wages. You cannot make it in any state in this country on $9 or $10 an hour. We've got to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I can tell you, as chairman of the Budget Committee, we have a room full of lawyers working as hard as we can to make the case to the parliamentarian that, in fact, raising the minimum wage will have significant budget implications and, in fact, should be consistent with reconciliation rules.
Yeah, I mean, Krystal, that's what it looks like whenever you actually want to get this done. I mean, he's actually trying to expend political capital, the parliamentary know-how. This is always the most hard part, which is that you have to have a president who says not only what they're going to do, but then actually wants to follow through on it whenever it comes to. And he's basically just taking it at its word. And look, I mean, I hate to do this because this is what the right, I mean, I hate to point out and almost sound like a leftist or something, but I'm like, it's true. The Republicans, when it came to budget reconciliation, they do not give a damn when they're under Trump's presidency.
They go so much harder.
On reconciliation in 2017, they were like, yep, we're doing the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We don't give a damn which Democrat is going to sign on. Here's our consensus position. They got really, really mad at Marco Rubio for like trying to increase a little bit of a tax cut for working families for the rest of this. They literally screamed at him, saying, oh, he's holding up the process, blah, blah, blah. That alone was the unforgivable sin. Within the caucus, he eventually got a little bit of what he wanted. They passed a bill. Same thing on Obamacare. If John McCain had not been there, Obamacare was dead, gone, all through budget reconciliation. So I'm just presenting to you, this is what happened in 2017.
Yeah.
They were absolutely willing to do whatever parliamentary trick they needed to in the book. This time around, President Biden basically just being like, no, can't be done.
Sorry, not going to be done.
Honestly, it's pathetic. I mean, if you're going to, if this is something that you are actually committed to, you got to fight for it. And, I see this in the child tax credit, which I'm talking about on my radar, now with the minimum wage, the checks. I'm like, even just like play acting the FDR thing and then not even the lack of deliverance on this. I'm not saying it won't get a large political benefit because it's better than the status quo and what the Republicans are offering, but you could really remake American society here. Like, we're actually living in one of those moments, and he's just like, no, I'm not going to do it. I mean, you have the votes. Why not? I just don't get it.
Pathetic is the right word, because there was barely even any pushback from the Democratic side on this.
They were like, okay,
you basically had Joe Manchin come out and be like, well, I'm not sure, and $12 might be better. That's it. That was the extent of the pushback.
Well, then put 12.
Like, oh, well, we can't do it now.
Then put 12. They don't even want to do that.
That'd be better than nothing. I mean, I would still be sad and pathetic because 15 is insufficient in a lot of places in the country at this point. People have been fighting and pushing for this for a long time. And by the way, it wouldn't even go into effect until 2025, all the way up to 15. But the minute there's even like a little bit of pushback from the right-wingers who are out in step again with the American people within the Democratic caucus, then he immediately folds on this, immediately folds on means testing for those $1,400 payments. Look, that's not a done deal, but all signs are pointing to. The minute that he comes out and says, I'm willing to negotiate on means testing, it's basically done. You know what direction that's going to go in for the payments. So there's two things here. I mean, number one, it shows the distance again between Washington and the American people. $15 minimum wage, 60-some% of Americans support that. It was, passed easily in the state of Florida, state that went for Donald Trump, something we brought up here time and time again. Extraordinarily popular, and even with that, Democrats won't push to get it done here. And the other thing is, look, this was a promise that was made that was basically the only thing that Bernie Sanders got in a solid commitment from Joe Biden in that when he conceded and they did the live stream, and we played this for you last week, but I just want to play it for you again. This was the one thing that Biden told Bernie he was going to try to get done. Let's take a listen to that.
Did you have any questions for me, Bernie, at all?
I did, Joe. 'Cause, 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 'cause let's talk about some of the areas that I think we are actually fairly close. There are some areas where we disagree, but somewhere we are fairly close. Let's talk about the economy. And above and beyond the crisis that we're in right now, you know very well that millions of our people are working for starvation wages. And one of the fights that I've been waging for a number of years now is to raise that minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. Is that something, Joe, that you are supportive of?
Bernie, I am extremely supportive of that. And I thank you for leading on it. I thank you for your endorsement, your support. But it means a great deal to me personally.
And look, I feel like this playbook has been run a number of times by the Biden people at this point, where they will sort of promise something that's really terrible, and then they'll do something that's somewhat less terrible, and then progressives will be like, oh, well, thank God they didn't do the really terrible thing, right? So initially it looked like they might try to do this through regular order, the whole coronavirus relief package, which would mean that nothing would get done. So then when they're like, no, we're going to do it through budget reconciliation, but we're going to screw you on these couple of pieces, I think a lot of people still feel like, well, thank God they're doing budget reconciliation at all. You saw that with a lot of their appointments and nominations as well, where they would like float some really horrific person, Larry Summers or Rahm Emanuel or whatever, and then they would go with someone who was somewhat less bad, and everybody would breathe a sigh of relief. I sort of feel like that's exactly what is happening again with this relief package, where if you just take yourself out of the situation and look objectively at it, what they're doing is woefully insufficient and it's way too late. And yet, you know, we're supposed to be excited as they bend on some of the most key pieces that would actually, I mean, $15 minimum wage, we're talking about how to restructure the economy, start to rebalance things. That's one of the more critical pieces that could be in this package, and they just immediately fold.
There's a difference between a bridge, which is basically what we have. Now, this corona, I don't want to downplay it. It is still something. Obviously, $1.9 trillion is $1.9 trillion. It's a bridge to the future, but fundamentally things will not change in terms of the structure, wages, the type of jobs. We could still see labor force participation rate drop dramatically. We could still see Great Recession levels of stagnation, all of the bigger problems that we saw after 2008. He has actually the ability to solve that. You actually have it. You can never say that you didn't at least have the chance, just like Obama did in 2008. And they have explicitly chosen not to do that. Same thing whenever it comes to this child. This is something I'm really into. But I'm aghast, really, at them trying to just knee cut themselves, both right and left, for no particular reason. And really, we are just letting the future go to waste. And it is going to require, even more, $1.9 trillion or however much it would cost right now, it will cost 10 times that amount in the future in order to make up for some of the mistakes that are done here.
Exactly correct.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radar, so that's next.